Men of Reddit, what's your creepy girl story? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. Once, an acquaintance added me on FB. When I clicked on her profile, it said she was in a relationship with someone. That someone was a fake account of me with my picture. She knew you would see it upon accepting the I feel like that makes it 10x more freaking creepy. I met a girl online. She seemed normal enough, so we ended up going out for a drink. I found out that night that she actually lived an hour away in a rural town, but whatever. Well, we went out, had a drink, then went to go play pool. We drove over in my vehicle, and when we got to the pool hall she checked her phone and saw she had a text from her ex-boyfriend. She proceeded to cry incessantly. I was trapped. I didn't know what to do, so I offered to take her back to her car. She said she wasn't sure if she could drive and she asked if I would take her home. I declined, saying it wouldn't be a good idea because A. Her car was like a mile away. B. She lived an hour away. C. How in the hell did she plan to get to her car the next day? So, she agrees for the night to end, all the while apologizing vigorously. The next day she texts me, apologizes, and offers to buy me lunch. She seemed alright when we were getting to know each other, and I was bored, so I figured what the hell and gave her another shot. She brought her kids to the lunch. When I saw them get out of the car, I texted her and said that it wasn't okay for me to meet them. She became irate and said her sitter cancelled at the last minute. Even though the drive was an hour long from her house, she didn't find it important to ask if it would be weird for her kids to come. It was at that point that I stated I was no longer interested. Now for the creepy part. 2 days later she texted me, but I didn't respond. She kept at it and kept asking if I wanted to go out the next weekend. After multiple texts I messaged her and said I wasn't interested and I had plans to take my friend out for her birthday. This resulted in even more irate messaging about how she wasn't comfortable with me going out with other girls and so forth. This resulted in her getting blocked. Turns out she took a guess on where we would go, since there was only one nightclub in the town, and she showed up. I had to tell the birthday girl that I was leaving and to call me when she was ready to go. My night was ruined. Birthday girl got home okay, in case you're wondering. But wait, there's more. A couple of weeks after that there was an ice storm and the power had gone out in the area. I ended up going over to a friend's house to hang out since they had a generator. We were playing cards and enjoying ourselves. Suddenly I get a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Are you alright? I'm really worried." The message read, "I'm fine. Who is this?" I replied, "It's creepy girl." She responded. I ignored it and put my phone down. The next message sent chills down my spine. "I'm really worried. I'm standing outside your house and all the lights are off. Are you sure you're okay?" She had never been to my house and I had never given her my last name. My final message before blocking her involved not contacting me or I'd call the police. It turns out she was a secretary or something for a police department and she ran my tag to find out where I lived, drove over an hour to my house in the midst of an ice storm, then got a new number also she could check up on me. That's bad. Really bad. Like she probably should be fired. Agreed, but that was the last I heard of her. You should probably report her anyway. Yeah, I don't think "not my problem anymore" is enough when she's using police resources to stalk people. She sounds unhinged and possibly dangerous. Girl in my dorm. She had a crush on my roommate. My roommate clearly didn't like and told her several times. Things got out of hand and there were times where my roommate would come running back to the room yelling, "Lock the door. Lock the door," and moments later the girl and her friend would try to come barge in without permission. What's creepy is this next part. Apparently one night we accidentally left our room unlocked and she decided to sneak in and play rub our heads. We didn't wake up, but her roommate told us what she did a couple days later. I haven't seen her in about a year and I'm quite glad. She rubs your head softer now. Impossible. I now work as a RA and know that she leaves across campus. That plus I opted to get the room that takes 3 doors to get to my room. If she can make it past all my defenses, I will humbly allow her creepily rub my head while I sleep. This younger girl who I never even spoke to once in high school had a crush on me. I got a note from her in my locker asking if I wanted to go out with her. I had no idea of how to get it back to her, so I just wrote no and taped it to my locker. Then she started following me everywhere. I would try to talk to her, but she would just keep walking away, pretending I wasn't talking to her. This goes on for like 2 years. Then I was hanging out by myself one day around the neighborhood, and she comes walking up with 3 guys who wanted to kick my ass for some dumb unrelated stuff. She somehow found out about it and brought them to me. After an embarrassing scene with me diffusing the situation with these angry gentlemen, they leave, and she finally sits down on the curb right next to me and starts flirting. All I could do was just stare at her enormous bangs with a what the frick expression until she got embarrassed and left. I was bored once at a small, local festival and didn't want to be there, so I just got a drink and started walking around aimlessly when I noticed a fire breather. The display was interesting and she was pretty hot. When she was on break she went to get a drink and we started talking. She seemed nice, we had a laugh, but her break was up and she resumed her display, so I left her to it and continued to wander around. 5 minutes later security was called to her display. Turns out some crazy girl whom I had never met before was following me around the festival and assaulted the fire breather. She had claimed that me and Crazy, were together and fire breather was trying to break us up. Heh, she was hot. I was in New Orleans watching some street performers go crazy and a mum came up behind me and fully grabbed both of my ass cheeks. I was 18 and standing next to both of my parents and she said, "Hey, you remind me of my son," which is probably one of the weirdest things to say in that moment. I wouldn't want to be her kid if she's the kind of mum to full on grab her son's ass like that. In a public place, no less. I wonder if she now tells him that he reminds her of a kid in New Orleans. There is a mum in New Orleans they call the grabber of butts. She's been the ruin of many a poor lad and I, oh lord, am one. She befriended my younger sister just to get her to ask her to a sleepover. I woke up in the middle of the night with her laying in bed with me. I was 17 years old. She was 13. Almost this exact thing happened to me, except it was the daytime and the offender was my parents' cleaning lady's kid. She was 13 or 14 and I was 18. She would try to wrestle with me every goddamn time she showed up, and every goddamn time I had to pry her off. I found out later that she had told everyone at her school that we had sex. So that was fun. Well, isn't that awesome? Everyone thinks you are a creep while you have no clue and are on your merry way. Look at the creep just walking around like he didn't assault a young girl. OP. I'll get a slice of cheese pizza. That monster. He knows exactly what he did. I know the majority of abuse happens when men assault young women, but people like to pretend that young girls don't have sexual motive or agency. I cringe when I think of the exy things I used to do at 13 to get a guy's attention. I had a crush on my dad's friend's son. He was 16 or 17. I'd do the whole lean over with a low cut top thing. I'd brush my ass against him in the hallway. One time I just freaking ran and tackled him over the couch. I was going to play it off as play wrestling. The worst I ever witnessed was at a barbecue party one of my girlfriend's parents had. We were about 15 at the time and one of our friends decided to unilaterally sit in the lap of this boy. He looked pretty cool with it and it only raised a few eyebrows, but she kept sitting there, talking to him, with her back turned. Weird, and the kitchen slowly cleared out. It was just me, the girl whose parents were hosting the party, and the guy and our girlfriend on his lap. She started grinding on him so hard that people from the patio could see, and he just had his hands out wide like I'm not doing anything. Poor guy was like 18 or 19 and obviously shy around girls, because he didn't know how to say no. In elementary school I would meow at boys I liked, because I thought it was sexy. I've got two. First one was when I was 15. I was walking past my school and about to cross the road when a trio of drunk women in their 40s or 50s started hassling me about how good I looked, pressing me in against the wall and surrounded me so that I couldn't get out and holding me back while they copped feels. Not a fun experience. especially when you can't even tell people about it or how creeped out it's left you. Because as a guy you should somehow be proud when women 3 times your age are grabbing your cock through your trousers against your will. The other one was about 4 years ago. I was 22 and asked a girl I'd met out. She seemed nice at first. Met her in a little cafe while I was waiting to meet some friends and we got talking about Pokemon and some other stuff for 20 or 30 minutes before adding each other on Facebook. Only weird thing was that in that time she told me she'd been raped by her ex. I thought maybe she was just being open about it as a way of dealing with the trauma, so I'll let it slide and messaged her a bit later to see if she'd be interested in a date. She told me that she already had a boyfriend, but that she'd love to hang out as friends, which was fair enough, so I agreed to that and we met up a few days later. She'd brought her boyfriend with her, which I expected. I got the sense he wasn't too comfortable with me, which I can understand, but what threw me was she also brought her ex. I can't 100% say it was the same ex she'd mentioned, but he really gave off that vibe with the way he talked and behaved around her. She kept on talking about dead babies and abortions obsessively as well. You couldn't change the subject at all. Creeped me the hell out, so I just sat there with a smile and acted civil while internally going, please don't kill me. And I haven't spoken to her since. Not a fun experience, especially when you can't even tell people about it or how creeped out it's left you. Because as a guy you should somehow be proud when women 3 times your age are grabbing your cock through your trousers against your will. Yes, you can. Don't let BS societal norms stop you. I hate to say it, man, but it's a lot harder to talk about that kinda stuff for guys. Only experience I have is a buddy of mine went down to New York City to this weird costume party. He ended up getting tied up and raped by this big woman who was feeding him shots. He was super drunk and admittedly a small guy, he couldn't stop it. He was confiding this in me and 2 other mutual friends, and one of the other guys said, dude, did you come? He responded very skeptically, yes. The other 2 guys immediately started laughing and saying, if you came it wasn't rape. This it still pisses me off to this day and I don't really talk to any of them anymore. But I remember trying to support my friend and argue with them, but it just seemed pointless. The poor guy felt ashamed and just stopped talking about it after.